Wisconsin is once again getting national attention this election cycle. But it's not for its special place as a prominent swing state that could change the tide of the 2020 election or for holding the Democratic nominating convention later this year. Now it's because the state's elected leaders have found themselves embroiled in a battle of whether or not to hold their presidential primary and local elections throughout the state amid the possibility that voting could expose those that participate in person to COVID-19. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers moved to postpone the election to June 9th via executive order Monday, April 6th, but was quickly overruled in a 4-2 vote by the Wisconsin Supreme Court. This decision is at odds with their 5-2 decision to limit potential exposure by suspending jury trials out of COVID-19 concerns. The U.S. Supreme Court has blocked efforts for extended absentee voting in the state, making it crucial for those wishing to vote to ensure their absentee ballots are returned or postmarked by April 7th, 8 p.m. This may leave many voters that were counting on absentee ballot by mail unable to be counted this election cycle. Staffing poses a particular challenge to ensuring safe and orderly voting, as there have been shortages of volunteers requiring the National Guard to step in and lend a hand. In Milwaukee, which usually has about 180 voting locations, there will instead only be 5 for the city's roughly 600,000 residents. At stake in this election are over 3,800 seats to include one on the state's Supreme Court. The stark choice voters will face in this election is to risk exposure to COVID-19 or not be able to help choose their elected leaders. Reporting from Racine, Wisconsin, I'm Lorenzo Santos, Rhetor News.
We're here in Racine, Wisconsin with Mayor Corey Mason at Festival Hall on Election Day. We know that in the past week, there have been a lot of developments. The governor of Wisconsin tried to suspend the elections and was rebuffed by the state's Supreme Court. So Mayor Mason, we just want to ask what your thoughts are on the developments that have been happening, what you feel about how voters can get their voices heard amid the precautions that they need to take.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the governor did yesterday was the right call. We were trying to find a way for people to just have everyone be mailed a ballot to avoid having to come up in person and potentially jeopardize their health. So, you know, what the court decision did, what the Republicans in the legislature did, basically put us in this position where voters are left with trying to make a decision between voting, which is one of the most important rights that we have in this country, and protecting their health. And so, you know, here in Racine, we're doing everything we can to make that as safe as possible. We're doing this drive-through voting for people who want to use curbside voting if they're worried about disabilities or the spread of coronavirus. People can just drive right up and do this, so they don't have to stand in lines inside. But there's no doubt that you know, the changes that were made yesterday, which were extraordinary, as you said, you know, the governor saying one thing, the court intervening to stop it. It's an extraordinary thing, and we're obviously deeply concerned what it's going to mean to have millions of people going out to the polls across the state right in the midst of a pandemic when we're trying to get people to stay further apart.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor.
My pleasure.
It's Lorenzo Santos reporting, Racine, Wisconsin, Rhetor News.